In this video we're going to look at creating import filters. Import filters are used both at the import register module and in the import records module. And creating an import filter is exactly the same process regardless of which of those modules you're in. Essentially what an import filter does is let you map imported fields to existing fields within the CRS. The way it does that is via this mapping table. What you're seeing, this mapping table, is a list of all of the fields that have been imported from the source database, and next to them is a list of all the fields that they're going to be mapped to within the CRS. This is a new filter, so we do have a listing of all the imported fields, but as yet none of them have been mapped. What we have on the right hand side here is a listing of the records that have been imported from the external data source, and we can skip through those and look at each of them to see which of the fields need to be mapped to which of the CRS fields. We'll go back to the beginning and start looking what the field mappings should be. Many of the fields that get mapped from an existing data source to the CRS will be obvious. And the first one of these is a good example. So author is the name of the field in the existing data source, and we want to map that to a field within CRS. So we click on the list of CRS fields here, and we choose the one that most closely matches it, and that's going to be author with an AU tag. In terms of mapping that field to the CRS field, that's all that we need to do. However, some fields need some special treatment, and author's one of them. The fields that need special treatment are the ones where the source data is held as multiple data values. This field is being read in from ProCite. ProCite uses the convention of a double slash to indicate separate values within a field. So it's not regarding this as one author string, it's regarding it as 4 separate authors. And in the CRS we do the same thing. We actually use the same convention of a double slash to indicate separate values within a field. You don't need to use the double slash as a field separator. You can use any character, and some databases do. Some databases would output these as a semicolon, for example, to indicate separate fields. So we need to tell the CRS what character it is that's being used to delimit these different values within a single field. And we do that by clicking on this button here. This opens a set of options. So this is the field properties dialog box. What we're interested in this case is the multiple fields tab. And we're just going to tell the CRS that the author field contains multiple values in the field and that those values are separated by a double slash. Now there might be spaces around the double slash before it or after it or both. That doesn't matter. All that the CRS needs to know is what the split character or characters are. So I go ahead and click OK, and that's done now. So we've now defined that the author analytic field that we're reading in is going to go into the author field within the CRS, and we've told it that it contains multiple values. What we can then do is go on and map the other fields. The next obvious one is title. It's called article title in the import file. We're going to map that to title in the CRS. It isn't a multiple field. We don't need to do any special processing on it, so that's the mapping done. And we can go through and choose the fields that match the original fields to the CRS fields and produce the import filter. We'll go to original title. We can open the list. If you know what the field begins with, you can just type that letter. So I'm just going to tap the letter O now, and that's going to take me down to all the CRS fields that begin with the letter O, and I'm going to choose original title. These other fields we can do the same with, and we're just going to go ahead and do a few more. So language within CRS, that's language published, so we're going to choose that. The journal title within CRS is source, so we're going to choose that. And we're going to keep on going down and put in all of the fields that we want to put in. So date of publication we'll put in as year of publication. The volume is the volume, that's an easy one. The issue is the issue, and within the Cochrane tag system, issue is tagged as NO, so we'll put that in there. Pages is going to be pages, and we'll scroll down a little bit more, see if there's any other key fields that we want to put in. We'll put the PubMed ID in because we know that we've got that. We'll also put the abstract in. Now, what we would do if we were doing a full filter is to go ahead and import all these other fields as well. But you'll notice that some of these fields are not contained within the key data set that comes as standard with the CRS. And an example might be this field here. We're importing a field called not sent, and we know that there isn't a corresponding value in the CRS fields. We can go and have a look, and we can scroll through, and we'll see there isn't a not sent field within here. Now, the best thing to do is to define that field within the Define Database tab, because you've got a lot of control over what that field can be. If you define it there, you can give it pick list values, you can give it a particular data type so that integrity checking can take place. But if this is just a standard text field that you know that you don't have and doesn't need any special processing, you can actually tell the CRS to create that field for you at this point. We're going to call it, we're going to choose this option, which is create new tag. We're going to click next. We're reading it into a reference category because we're reading in references at the moment. We're going to give it a new field tag, and we're going to call it, in this case, XNS. And it's often a good idea to prefix your own tags with a particular letter that distinguishes them from other standard tags. The standard bibliographic tags for references are the ones that you would find in Medline or most bibliographic databases. The tags for studies almost all begin with the letter S. And the convention that we usually adopt is for fields that are your own personal fields, start them with the letter X or something that makes it clear that they're not the standard fields. So we're going to call this tag XNS, which means that if we were going to search, we'd search on :XNS, and we're going to give it a field name, which is not sent. Click Set Field. That's gone away, and that's created that field within the CRS, and it's associated it with this data that we're bringing in here. We could go ahead and we could do that with all of the other fields that we were bringing in. If you're reading in data where you know the subtype, so if you're reading in references and you know that they're all type journal article, then you can specify that on this screen, and those records will be created within the CRS with a journal article subtype attached to them. So we've looked at how to map one field to another within the CRS. We're importing fields, we're mapping them to CRS fields, we're telling it whether it's got multiple values or not, and we're telling it what sort of a subtype we're going to create. Whether you're in the import register or the import records tab, the process is the same, and at this point you would go ahead and process that import, and that would apply this mapping and bring the records in. You can save the filter to use in the future just by clicking the Save button. It asks for a filter name, which we'll give it, and you click OK, and then that's now saved for the next time you want to read in records from this same data source.